Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M1M, as you know, is the first global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP, and 10 million jobs. And in support of our mission, we have done 323 free online mentoring sessions, and this is our 324th session. So we are very much looking forward to working with some of you from different parts of the world. And these sessions are always kind of like an United Nations summit where we have people from all over the world, and it's a great pleasure and a great revelation for us to see who comes with what idea, and we get to hear from various international destinations and what's happening in entrepreneurship in different parts of the world. So the event is being recorded. You will be able to access it on our YouTube channel. If you are live tweeting today, please use the hashtag 1M1M, and you can also follow us on Twitter at 1M by 1M and at Sramana, both of which are very content-rich channels. Throughout the year, we basically on a daily basis publish a lot of rich content, educational, inspirational, informational content through the channel. Another channel to follow is the 1M1M Roundtables YouTube channel, where you'll find recordings of all our prior roundtables. It's another great body of learning material. And these are the call-in numbers for today's conversation. So this is a roundtable, so we want you to participate as much as possible, whether you choose to participate in public chat or you decide to dial in. Those who have sent in slides to pitch today, you must dial in. So the phone number is 650-479-3208, and the access code is 662-981-884. Anyway, so we are going to get started shortly with the entrepreneur presentations, but I would like to do a bit of expectation setting for all of the presenters. You know, we are here to work with you. This is a working session. So, and we are completely on your side. We want this to be a safe place so you can ask for feedback candidly. And I'm going to give you feedback candidly as well. And directly, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat things or, make things more palatable somehow. I'm going to basically tell you as I see your business, and the strategy recommendations that I make are going to be pretty, straightforward based on my experience. And please understand that I have no other agenda. 1 million by 1 million has no other agenda but to help you succeed, help you accelerate your journey. It is very possible that you might disagree with my feedback. Don't feel bad about that. At the end of the day, this is your venture. You're going to make your own decisions. Take into account the feedback you get here. Eventually, the decision is entirely yours. The other thing that I want to set expectations around is we often see an obsession around raising money. There's this misconception in the industry that entrepreneurship equals financing, and that's just not the way we look at business. We do believe that not all businesses can raise money, not all businesses should raise money, and raising money does not equal success. So, raising money is a tool, financing is a tool, and we'll be able to tell you how to use that tool, when to use that tool, and when not to use that tool, if that's the question that you ask. But don't assume that that is your benchmark of success. Benchmark of success for an entrepreneur is customers, revenues, and profits. Everything else is incidental. Financing is an extra, tool. Exit is an extra. What is not optional is customers, revenues, and profits. And if you're not pitching, please do participate by asking questions in the public chat as well as by dialing in. This is a roundtable. We want you to participate as much as possible, and that's how you're going to learn the most, is by engaging as much as possible. Okay, is Vaibhav ready? Can you hear me, Vaibhav? Are you dialed in? You need to unmute your line. Oh, you haven't called in. Okay, I'm going to go to Raya. I see. Oh, Dotun is all. Okay, we'll go to Dotun then. Dotun Oni from Lagos, Nigeria, please unmute your line and tell us what Survifly is.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dotun. Yes. Okay. Survifly.
Tell us what you're working on.
Okay. Survifly. Survifly is a crowdsourced platform for survey research. There's a big problem with collecting data in Africa. Most times when people have to collect survey response, they travel down to Africa because the percentage of internet population in Africa is just less than 26%. So that leaves over 70% without internet connection. So most times people usually travel down to Africa just to come and collect data. So Survifly is a crowdsourcing platform where researchers globally can interact with Survifly agents that would collect data for them on the ground without having to travel down to Africa.
Okay. Please go ahead.
We're currently working with SurveyMonkey, currently doing an integration with SurveyMonkey. So when you create a survey on SurveyMonkey and you want to collect responses in probably, let's say, Nairobi, Kenya, and probably you live in Berlin, Germany, all you need to do is create your survey on SurveyMonkey, integrate it with your Survifly account, and agents would collect the data for you on the field in Nairobi and send to you via Survifly into your SurveyMonkey account without traveling down to Africa. Same thing too goes for GIS mappers. You want to collect data probably from Botswana and you live in China, you can collect your data via Survifly using Survifly agents. It's a very, it's a huge problem for Africa. So we currently, based on our stats, how we make money is researchers.
Listen, do you have your computer on? We're hearing an echo. It was very clear for a while and then it started echoing. So you need to shut off the computer if you have that on, audio of the computer.
Okay. So
that's better.
The problem is go right again. Okay, it cost a researcher living in Germany to come to Africa, cost a researcher over $10,000 to come to Nairobi to collect survey responses. But when you use Survifly to collect your data, you spend less than 10% of that. You just pay the Survifly agent to collect the data for you in Nairobi, then send it to you via the internet to your location. You don't have to travel down to Africa. So how we make money is we charge researchers on every survey response they collect. They pay to the agent. So we take a charge of the money paid to Survifly agents.
Okay.
So it's a unique solution across Africa. With this, there is a current statistics out from 2000 to 2010. No African country carried out any survey for their population or data, and this has left Africa without accurate data. Most times when businesses have to move to Africa, they find it difficult to make accurate business decisions because there are no data to back up their decisions. Survifly wants to provide an avenue for businesses all over the world to have access to data across Africa without traveling down to Africa. That's so that's
what have you done in terms of validation so far? Have you started this, or is this at a concept stage?
Okay. I founded the company uRegister. uRegister is a survey builder, just like WUFU or Typeform. But we struggled to grow uRegister because most people couldn't collect data on the internet. So that was why Survifly had to be born. We currently have
I understand,
a
but the question I'm asking is different. Do you have a platform that is already live on the web? Are people using this platform? Have you done any of this, or is this at a concept stage?
Okay, it's we already have a private beta. We tested with a couple of researchers, but not yet on a public domain. We were able to collect over 3,000 survey responses using Survifly agents. We have a network of close to 1,000.
Who are the clients? So, how many clients are actually using this these surveys?
Okay, mostly PhD students in universities across Africa, students majorly. They were the ones for their thesis.
Are they paying for it, or is this a free service right now?
What did you say?
Are people paying for it, or are they using the service for free?
Okay, yeah, we did it for them for free because we were only trying to test it. When we found out that it worked, the agents were able to collect.
I understand where you are. Now, what is the basis of this $30 billion global market? How do you calculate this number?
Okay, so we use the global data market currently. That's cost of data on the global market. Although we are starting with Africa, we intend to extend it across the world, such that
so the thing what I would like to, one of the pieces of feedback that I want to give you is that you need to learn how to calculate bottom-up market size. This 30 billion number doesn't say anything to me. This sounds like some sort of a wild top-down number that is not really the kind of number that is relevant for your purpose. In building this business, you need to get a granular feel for what is the bottom-up market analysis, market size number. So that's something, that's one of your action items, is how you need to go learn how to do that and then do that so that we have a clear sense of what is the market size, which I don't understand at all right now based on the data you've presented so far.
All right, I'll do that.
And then the next piece of feedback I have for you is based on what you have described, the traction that you're getting, 1,000+ agents, 3,000+ responses. That's all very well, but this is all free. You will not be able to build a business if you give it for free, right? So you're going to need to figure out who is willing to pay for this kind of service and how much are they willing to pay, and what can you charge for this business. And that is one of the key elements that you're going to need to even figure out what is the total available market size for this business. So the thing that I would like you to do is not to focus too much on building a lot of traction around the free service, but I want you to get to, acquiring paid customers as soon as possible and figuring out what is going to be the business model of this business and what is going to be the pricing model. Okay?
Yes.
So that's exactly what I need you to validate is figure out what is going to be the revenue model and what is going to be, it's fine, paid commission on a paid transaction is fine as a framework assumption, but you need to get down to the specifics of the numbers and so forth. And who are the most crucial question that you will answer in this process is who is willing to pay? Are PhD students in Africa the right clients for this? So do they have budget? Are they going to be able to afford this? Or what kind of customers really do you need to go after? Do you need to go after, agencies, aid agencies, or there are people out there who would be willing to pay for your service, and you need to figure out what is that segment or what are those segments, and then build this business around that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So those are my main feedback. And by the way, you will have the recording of this session available, so you can play it back and make notes of what I said so that you can go and execute on it, okay?
I'll do that. All
right, good luck. And if you need help, come back. I'll explain a little bit later. So if you hang on through the session, I will explain to you also how to use 1 million by 1 million in your entrepreneurial journey.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, I have a question. Like, what do you think about the problem we are solving?
I think it makes sense. Like, I like the concept, but it's really not important what I think. The most important thing is there a segment of customers that are willing to pay for what you're offering. And that's the segment one. You'll need to identify what that segment is and then talk to them and start selling to them. So the real crux of the matter is not what I think about it. The real crux is what customers think about it. And you're going to need to identify those customers.
Okay.
Make sense?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Vaibhav, you're going to go next.
Right.
Go on.
All right.
You there, Vaibhav?
Yeah, I'm there, ma'am. Hope you're doing great.
Yes, go ahead. This is your slide, right?
So, yeah, I think this is the second page we have. Basically, the first page we missed it.
Here, okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. So
all right.
I am
so go ahead.
And so I belong to basically Patna, the place we have in India, and I thought of doing a revolution, basically talk about revolution on healthcare startup industry. So like healthcare is something that is pretty critical that nobody's talking about these days, and we have like bunch of startups in India, and they're doing pretty good if you talk about in technology part and talk about operations and giving online consultation. But nobody's talking about how we're gonna solve billion people problem. So here I come in. So can you move to next slide, please?
Yep.
Yeah. So the problem we have over here that affordable healthcare is still not available for the major section of Indian population. So the population size is 1.3 billion, and out of that, only 6% people have health insurance. So if you talk about another billion people, doesn't have a health insurance. So, and if you see another data that 70% population stays in rural India, healthcare cost limits basically like 100 people got sick, only one goes to hospital. Rest 99 goes to some other small medical clinic, and they take some small medicine. And what happened that when the disease go on a bigger stages, then they start reaching government hospital, where treatment doesn't happen in a proper way. Then you go to private hospital, then you lose your lands, then you lose your huge money on healthcare. And if you take another data that India ranked around 112 by WHO, which is pretty bad for us, and it's basically same for me that I'm not doing something for India that we should do. So cost of healthcare is increased by 5.4% per year, and GDP grows by 3.1%. So if you see expenditure, which is huge, and doctors are becoming millionaires days by days. So that is the problem we have over here. So if you can move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So here I will come with a solution. That solution, what I'm doing right now, that we have started right now in 6 cities, that Patna, Bhagalpur and Muzaffarpur, and the other city we have in Jharkhand like Ranchi, Jamshedpur and Dhanbad, and we are going to Kolkata as well in coming few months. So I'll come to the point that what I'm doing right now, that if you meet a doctor, that doctor give you only 4 advice. The first thing we happen over here, that the patient just goes through the consultation process. So once he see you, then he'll tell you that, okay, go through the test and X-rays. Once you come back with the test and X-rays, he will basically give you a prescribed medicine, and once you have medicine, then after medicine, that if you're well, then you'll not visit a doctor, but if you're not well, you'll come back again, and then he will go through this operation or surgery process. So what we are here doing right now, that we are basically a platform that allow you to get up to 50% discount on your healthcare. If you talk about on your healthcare, it is 4 things: the consultation, treatment, operation, and medicine. So medicine, we will allow you to get you up to 20% discount, but consultation, treatment, and operation is up to 50%. So, and we have made a 3 membership plan we have. So annually it's like 499, 799, and for family it is 999. So basically what happened in India, the health insurance is pretty expensive that everybody can't afford, and even they can afford, there are lots of expenses which is behind the health insurance. As well as if you see that, if we talk about our members, they will save around 5 to 10 times per year. And most important thing, what happened in health insurance, that if you invest 5,000 rupees, it doesn't get your money back. So the major scaredness of the people over here, that if I invest X number of amount on X number of companies, what input I'm gonna get, and so that is not happening in this industry. So then we have participation with the healthcare provider, like we have general physician, gastronomy, diabetologist, we are a platform that is we are trying to cover from head to toe. Anything happen to you, head to toe, we will allow you to get up to 50% discount on healthcare services.
So Baba, I have a question here. To deliver what you're saying you want to deliver, you need agreement from a very large number of providers, healthcare providers, all different streams of providers who will agree to this kind of 50% discounting terms. How much confidence do you have that this is viable, that these physicians are willing to provide that? So what validation have you done on that?
Yeah, so I'll give you data over here that I was thinking of starting from Bangalore because I was working in Groupon and I was a senior marketing consultant. So using a Groupon model in healthcare was a little risky, but I did a market research, met 1,000+ doctors, and right now I want to give you data that in Patna we have around 40+ doctors, 2 major hospitals, as well as 20 nursing homes right now. If you talk about Ranchi, we do have 20+ individual doctors, 10 clinics, and if you talk about 6 is like more of, like dental care and all. So if you talk about a number over here, the loss of doctors, they are not agreeing in my points, but the loss of doctor who is agreeing on my points. So what I am trying to bring over here that I can't get you the best doctor in the town, but I can get you a person who can get your treatment done. And we do have a very bad misconception in India that only X name of the guy can give me a proper treatment. I'm going to be cured by X only. So people have a monopoly over here that only this doctor can give me a treatment and he can cure. But it's not, but which I think, there are lots of doctors who do have a degree, right, and who do have a knowledge, but he is not known to the market, right? So what I'm doing right now that I'm listing all the doctors who do have an experience, and we are very strictly talk about on term and condition. If you talk about the registration process and all, so we follow every criteria that you should have experience. And so basically, I'll come to the solution part that we're using a web platform that's SwasthRaho.in, and we started a new concept which we're gonna do that SOS calls. So why we think of bringing SOS calls over here that imagine that you're stuck in a place called Havra and it's in Kolkata or a small village, and there is no network in the area, and you have emergency and you wanted to reach our hospital in another 3 hours, but there is no network on the area. So we are basically gonna get a number from the government. It's gonna be like 198 or something like 102. So it will be an emergency helpline number for the healthcare. So directly the call will come to us. From there, we'll try to get in the nearby doctor on their presence, as well as we'll try to send an ambulance and try to fix in the nearest possible hospitals. So third thing, we do have toll-free number for the patient assistance. The fourth thing, we are giving a membership card to all the patients. And the fifth thing is directory. So what we are doing right now, we will not only help you to get to an online platform. Imagine that I'm targeting our rural people and they don't have smartphone and they don't have internet, even they don't have a network connection. So what they can do, they can just look up to this directory. So this directory will say about this nearby doctor on your particular areas, as well as their phone numbers, and as well as they have degree in what. So it will be in a local language. For example, I'm doing in Bihar, I'll be writing in Hindi. If I'm doing in Kolkata, I'll be doing in Bangla. There will be a page of English, there will be a page of in their local language. So that I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Yes, so that is the technology plus SOS calls plus call center. So what we are doing right now that, any form of application, like you wanted to have a doctor on your nearby place, even you doesn't have a network connectivity, we can help you to get a doctor done. Sorry, we can help you to get it available in your area, the doctor areas. So you heard of that there's a tragedy happened in Odisha that there was a guy called Dina Manji, and he was taken her wife for another 10 kilometers and she suddenly died. So I don't want this thing to happen again in India, right? And the government did nothing, and Bahrain government, they have sent around 9 lakh rupees on its fund to have a survival. So this is the real problem we have of healthcare in India, and we are trying to solve this real problem. And I'm using this my technology as well as SOS calls, and I'm doing it.
Okay, so I like obviously there is there's a huge population in India, and there is a shortage of doctors, and there's also shortage of resource allocation, access, price point. I mean, there's all kinds of inefficiencies in the system, and the fact that you're trying to rationalize some of these inefficiencies and do a better resource allocation at a better price point, all that is, that all looks good. I like all of those concepts. But I guess the questions that I'm asking that you need to actually ask the market and use the proper techniques to validate from the market is, can you get critical mass of doctors to deliver these services at these prices in a reliable way into the community that you are looking to access. So that's one of the things that I will say is something that you need to pay attention to. And aside from that, you're going to also need to figure out where in this spectrum of customer base, even if they pay 50%, somebody still has to pay. Otherwise, you can't do this business, right? Because it's a business. It's a for-profit business. So somebody has to pay.
Right. Right.
Right. So you have to figure out how you are going to accomplish that piece of the equation. Who is in a position, in that 1.3 billion population, who is in a position to afford to be, to pay? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
There will be segments that you need to go after. So that this has to go through, this whole thing has to go through a very, very precise segmentation exercise to find where you want to position the business.
So I talk about the doctor platform, right?
Okay. And then you have a couple of questions. Help me understand the first question. How should we bring down rank? I don't understand. What are you talking about? Ranking from what to what? What ranking is this?
This is ranking of India healthcare by WHO. So WHO is a platform that ranks every country. Like France is a #1 right now. If you see data, the second, the Bangladesh who is much better than us. So what happens is WHO, according to the doctors, and hospitals, they do a research on every country basis, and they see the number of people died from disease, the number of people have died from natural death. They see a number of people have died from accidental death, and according to that, they make a survey and they give a listing on every country. So, which is bad for us, like 112, we should not be there, because the problem is major over here that we have very less number of doctors. If you see that in 12,000 people, there is one doctor.
So I understand what you're trying to do. That's from a mission statement, vision statement, that's all very well. The part that I think I'm more interested in seeing you do and, have you focus on from your business point of view is the more granular, more specific stuff in terms of, how are you going to build this business? We understand conceptually what you're trying to do, but we also need to get very granular and very precise on how are you going to build this business? How are you going to translate this concept, this vision to something that is a viable business? And that's where there's a lot of pure business skills and business-related fundamentals that you need to pay attention to. And again, I'll be happy to help you with that as we go through the program today. You can, if you hang on, I will explain to you a bit more about how to use 1M to go through that process. And in any case, some of the feedback that I gave you while you were presenting are the kinds of questions that you're going to need to answer in short order.
Right. So I can talk about this doctor. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other question that you want to ask me?
So I just want to clarify two things which I have over here. That if you talk about doctor's perspective, there are lots of doctors. They once you meet them the first time, they say no. But if you start explaining the benefits, like I'm just giving you an example over here that I'm at a general physician and he's earning ₹1 lakh on a daily basis. And first, after listening my things, he said no. But once I told him that like you're making ₹1 lakh on a daily basis and you have a potential of seeing 500 people because you got 6 other doctors. It's basically a clinic, and like you're saying only 300 people. So what about another 200 people? So he's saying that I'm getting a max 300 people. So what I told him that, see, either you get 1 people, either you get 500 people. Your expenses is almost same. You don't need to hire extra person, a person who's coming from my side, right? So end of the day, he got agreed, and he said that okay, we're gonna work on our platform. See, the thing is that only the doctor has to give a time to see a patient. So of course, there are lots of doctors who are not agreeing to give discount, but there are lots of doctors as well who is agreeing that, okay, we're going to work with you. Because end of the day, see, if the $1 goes in marketing,
I think your point is well taken. I think you're going to need to figure out what is the critical mass that you need to be able to do this business, and at what scale can you do this business within a reasonable pool, with a reasonable pool of doctors, because I can guarantee you not everybody is going to want to discount their fees by 50%. So again, you're going to have to find a segment of doctors who are willing to do that, and as long as that segment serves your critical mass, you can have a business. How big a business can you do? How scalable a business you can do? What are the what are the constraints, etc.? I have no idea. Those are the things that we
the major problem. Yeah, see, the major problem is not about onboarding doctors. It's all about getting people as well. So I'm giving you data over here that in Patna, like there are 250,000 people who goes for a treatment on a daily basis. So it has a population of like 23 crores. And if you see a number, and imagine that if I'm launching in Patna by like what we are doing on Jan. So once we have 300 plus doctors, we have 30 nursing homes. Plus we have 10 hospitals, which is our major core area right now, which we are working on that. We got 6 sales interns who is working in every aspect and every area of getting a business from the place. So we do have people, and we got lots of inquiry from lots of startup as well. And end of the day, that see where I'm gonna face this problem over here, that we need to have the same thing on a mass volume. So it will be great that if you can, enlighten me on that part, that how should I, because my plan is over here to capture India by 2020. And by October, if you talk about 2017, I'm covering 6 states. So now by December, I'm covering Bihar, Jharkhand. If you talk about 2017, Jan to June, I'm covering Odisha, Kolkata, and few northern east states. So it will be great that you can help me out. How should I cover whole India in 2020?
I don't think that is the right question, because you're saying you're covering Jharkhand. What is the definition of covering Jharkhand? You will have a presence in Jharkhand and you're covering Jharkhand. That's 2 very different questions. You may be covering Jharkhand in the sense that you have a presence in Jharkhand. That's not covering Jharkhand, and you don't need to have presence everywhere. I think there is a strategic question that we need to answer vis-a-vis your business, is whether you actually have sporadic presence in 20 different states or more, or do you want to really cover 1 or 2 or 3 states in a deep way? And those are massive strategic questions. These are massive positioning questions. You have this fantasy of saying that you cover India in 4 years with the kind of service that you're talking about covering is a hugely expensive and hugely ambitious value proposition and hugely ambitious agenda, and that's not easy to do.
I know that. That's the reason I choose this challenge.
That's a reasonable question. I think a more reasonable question is whether or not you can build a viable business, and what is the right strategy to build that viable business. That is the real question, I think.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's why don't you hang on? Let me work with the next presenter, Raya, and then we can come back to more Q&A later on in the program. Okay?
Sure.
Now, Maureen, I have been kicked out of the event from the WebEx session, but I'm on the phone and I have the slides. So I think, you know, I can't possibly anchor the session without and do troubleshooting on technical stuff. So I propose that I just keep going with the slides on my end, and Maureen, you take over and you advance the slides, okay? So Raya, you're up next. And Maureen, if you could bring Raya's slides up and give me the cue when you're ready, Raya.
I'm ready.
Can you see your slides on the screen?
Not yet. Yes, now I can.
Okay. So let's go ahead with your presentation, and I have your slides on my computer as well. So keep going.
All right. Okay. All right. Morning, afternoon, evening. My name is Raya Guruswamy. I live in Houston, Texas. And I had to put a fun fact in, so I just thought of the fact that I have 2 young toddlers at home, and my wife and I can't wait for 5 o'clock to come sooner every day. And if you don't have kids, you probably don't know what I mean by that, but you will. So with that, I'll move on to the next slide. So my company is called EnergyFundz. So the company is focused on the oil and gas market, and it's a place for oil and gas royalty buyers and sellers to meet. So I'll tell you a bit about what that means, but right off the bat, you know, the first thing I want to say about that, it is a marketplace. The company is it's formed to be kind of to connect 2 parties with one another, just as, you know, you have a lot of kind of other platforms to do so. So on to the next slide. So again, just to give you a bit about what is an oil and gas royalty. An oil and gas royalty is a very similar concept to what you would know when you think about a music royalty. If you have a piece of land and you, a company comes and says, look, I want to produce oil and gas from your land, you get a share of the production of that, of the revenue that they generate. And it could be something, you know, it's a percentage of the revenue. So again, it's almost consider it as a rent that they pay to you of the revenue that they make from your land. Now, the thing about what's great about the United States, the oil and gas industry here, is that every individual who has land and has oil and gas being produced out of it has a royalty associated with it. So every oil well has a royalty associated with it. So that's the oil and gas royalty market. So kind of our vision is to be the go-to online platform for buyers and sellers to trade their royalties or to connect with their royalties and do deals. And the market has a huge issue right now. It's kind of a similar issue to real estate, where the buying price and the asking price are very far apart. And so through our platform, we're trying to narrow that gap. And initially, what we want to do is at least facilitate at least 1% of all the royalty transactions within Texas, at least initially, and then move over nationally. So the next slide, please. So where is the opportunity? So like I said, every oil and gas well in the U.S. has a royalty. That's just the way the mineral rights are set up in the U.S. That's what led to this revolution in the oil and gas industry. Like I said, I'm focusing on Texas alone. Within the state, there are about 300,000 producing oil and gas wells. And then there are about alone 4 million royalty owners. That means that of all the lands in Texas, there are about 4 million people that are collecting a royalty on their land. And a royalty is just a sum of money which could range from $1,000 to as high as $20,000 a month just for owning that piece of land and having oil and gas being produced on it. The next opportunity is that the transactions in 2015 for royalty owners within Texas itself were about $3 billion. That number has obviously come down as the prices of oil and gas have come down sizably. But it is still, you know, a significant chunk of money that changes hands between royalty owners in the state. So our goal over here is to facilitate 1% of that market, again, in Texas. And through that, we feel that we can at least generate up to $3 million in revenue by year 5. So the next slide, please. So the problem that you face is, next slide, please, Maureen. So the existing problems, or well, the solutions that exist in the market right now is that it's a bit like our competitors kind of have an eBay model or a Craigslist model versus our model, which is more of a matching model. So their model is that, you know, buyers and sellers have to go through every listing like Craigslist. You know, you have to go through every listing out there to find the right one that meets your criteria. With the auction model, which I said is like eBay, that our competitors use, we've talked to our customers, and they feel like there's a bit of a winner's curse, where you end up overpaying in an auction for the oil and gas deals that they're trying to do. Also, we are trying to really appeal to the smaller sellers in the market, those small kind of landowners that have land that want to sell their royalties. We're not targeting the big players as our competitors do. And what we found is that it's an overlooked market for the smaller players. So we want to really appeal to those smaller players. And the last thing is our competitors make absolutely no use of technology or data or any kind of, useful visual representations of the data that they're trying to present to their potential clients. And we want to try and bring that into our platform. So the next slide, please. So our solution is to then provide a history of the earnings of all the information that our sellers have provided to us. We want to try and incorporate a wizard to help the sellers put a valuation on their royalty, and utilize public information to try and get the production information. And I know I'm speaking to a non-oil and gas audience, so the worst thing I can liken this to is when you go and sell your car. If you've ever used an online platform to sell your car, there's some portals called autotrader.com or cars.com. It's you putting in the metrics of your car. I have a 2010 Honda Civic that I want to try and sell. It's going to give you a rough estimate of what your car is worth based on what other cars in that category have sold for. We want to try and do the same thing. And so, we have a technology offering that helps you figure out some of those financial metrics. So what are the payback periods? What is your internal rate of returns? How is it going to work depending on what the oil price is today? Similar to these car websites, you can compare various kind of offerings. So you can compare. We want to help our buyers compare two royalty deals side by side. And again, on that technology front, we want to bring real-time data into this platform, so real-time decisions can be made based on the data as it is today. So the next slide. So how do we go to acquire these smaller landowners? So, as I've said, we're appealing to the smaller royalty owners that want to transact their royalties, that want to sell their royalties in the open market. So the first aspect is very much a digital marketing aspect. We're going to look at using a kind of a marketing funnel via newsletters, white papers, free resources and tools. It's very much an avenue to kind of appeal to these smaller owners. There's certainly several oil and gas events and trade shows in the state, within Texas itself, that we can appeal to them. We would like to form strategic partnerships, have partnerships with financial advisory firms. And the last one at the bottom is there's a concept in this industry called landmen. These are individuals that are on the front lines, meeting with the royalty owners and trying to do deals. A lot of these individuals, unfortunately, are out of work at the moment, given that the oil and gas industry is going through a bit of a slowdown. So we want to try and bring these individuals on a commission basis onto our platform and tell them, look, for every deal you bring onto our platform, we will give you a commission if there's a transaction through that deal. Because at the end of the day, it's a very kind of relationship-based business. We need people on the front lines to go out there, find those smaller landowners, and get them to bring their royalty or their land onto our platform so that can be transacted. And the next slide, please. So our strategy is that we take a flat fee of 5% for every deal that we do. Like real estate, the seller ends up paying the success fee. And what we do is, again, like real estate, we have an exclusivity period with the seller to say, we have 30 days to get your property and then try and sell it, to get your royalty and try and sell it. And, a big question we get is, well, why does the seller and buyer need you? They might, they could, if they find each other, they could just go around you and do a deal. So we do require each side, the seller in particular, to sign a non-circumnavigation a circumvention agreement. That just means that, you know, the deal has to be worked through us. And the next slide, please. So, you know, a bit about our financials. In the first year, it is slow growth. As you can tell, you know, we make our deals based off a commission. So the success fees, I think the numbers to look at are the numbers on the outside, on the two outsides. So the success fees and the net income. So by, you know, like I said, year 5, we're looking at about, you know, to do total transactions of about, so it's about $2.5 million, and we want to at least get success fees of about $2.5 million. And
so how is it that you have a higher success fee than deal value in your first year?
Sramana, I was just looking at the graphics. Unfortunately, it's a bit flopped. I think the numbers came out wrong. But so that is an error over there. But in theory, what it should happen is that the net income should be much higher. Well, the net income, is our revenue. So put it this way, the success fees is the amount of deals that we're transacting, and then the net income is the money that we'll take away from that. But I understand
you need
that
to
the
use
numbers,
your terminology. Accounting-wise, your terminology is so off, it's very difficult to understand. Net income usually has a particular connotation. If you're calling net income revenue, that's very confusing for someone who's listening to your presentation. But regardless, I think, okay, why don't I listen to your questions first? I have some feedback for you in general, but go ahead, and why don't you go over your questions first?
The last slide is the questions I had is like, so, you know, the feedback I've had from a few people is, look, we're chasing the long tail. That is smaller deals. We're chasing, our competitors are looking at those big deals. They're working with the states. They're working with major oil companies. We're working on the smaller end of that spectrum. We're looking at the smaller landowners that, you know, want to transact. Is that a mistake? And just because the deal values are much smaller, related to that, you know, at some point we'd like to pivot over to kind of working through bigger deals. And is that going to be a challenge?
Well, let me address those first before you go on to the next questions. And that's roughly where my feedback to you is that in any two-sided, in seeding any two-sided marketplace, you have to identify a penetration point where the pain point is strong enough that people are willing to, you know, take a chance on something new and different. Okay. So, so to answer your question, whether the long tail, chasing the long tail is a mistake or not, if the long tail can give you the penetration point, that the long tail has enough pain point that they're willing to come to the table to transact on your site for some value that you're offering them, then it's not a mistake. If that's, you know, if that phenomenon does not exist, then it is a problem. So that's something that you're going to have to work out, is who really has a problem that your solution solves, and so such that they're willing to come to the table and transact on your platform. And that is the critical question in making any two-sided marketplace business successful. So once you figure that out, and once you figure out the answer to the segmentation question of where exactly, how do you penetrate this market, then comes the question of what is the strategy for pivoting, because you don't know yet what that strategy is. You know, you're assuming that the long tail is the strategy. I just haven't heard enough of an analysis or justification to know whether that is the right. This is not a domain that I know, but I can work with you to steer you in the right direction, asking the right questions, and I can help you with the framework of how to answer these questions. But I will need you to go find the data so that I can help you position this. So that's number one. So the second question is kind of a derivative of the first question. We need to first answer the question is, how is this marketplace rightly going to be seeded? That's the number one question, and the second question is a derivative of that question. So the second question cannot be answered until that first question is answered. Now, then you're asking about investors. Now, the third question that is a critical question is, how big is this opportunity? And you're already following up that question with a $2 to $4 million annual revenue in sufficient for an exit in Silicon Valley. in principle, the answer is yes, but it depends on what is the time frame in which you're getting to 2 to 4 million in revenue. If you get to 2 to 4 million in revenue in 1 year, and the business is growing at a furious pace, then that's a very different story than if it takes 5 years for you to get to 4 million in revenue, in which case there's no interest in exit from anybody. Forget Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and I think that's what
and it's a cash business that you're doing, and so forth, and you're not even, you know, in the league of an exit business. Basically, is the story.
Yeah. So I mean, our revenue is directly related to how many deals that we do. The more deals that we do, the better our revenue, and which kind of comes to the third question is, the only way I can penetrate that market is through strategic partnerships with people who have resources on the ground. So there are a couple of investors I've been in talks with, and they have a vast network in this industry that they could use that I could plug into that network to kind of reach those landowners, and in doing so transact more deals. But is that the right step to go about it? Is really
not
the question.
Necessarily, because the thing that you need to figure out first and foremost is, what is the business that you're building? How big is this business going? How big can this business be? And you just don't have enough data yet to be able to answer these questions based on what you've presented so far. You have to scan through all of that and get to those answers, and then we can decide whether, what is the right way to, approach the investment strategy for this business. We need to know what is the TAM, what is the bottom-up TAM, how, what pace is this business going to be built. If this business is a linear growth, in 5 years you build a, $5 million company kind of storyline, then you shouldn't seek investment. You should do this organically and bootstrap it, and then you have a reasonable story, and you're making money, and a small group of your, colleagues, partners are making money, but it's not an investor type of business in that case. It needs to be bootstrapped to a cash business. So that there is a huge amount of analysis that still needs to go into this business plan that you're discussing, or this business concept that you're discussing, that then can be, worked on, and I can help you figure out the right strategy, but there is pre-work to be done before you can answer the second half of your question set.
Okay, all right, and so again, that is kind of that. It leads into we need to build, and I feel we just need to build those partnerships. But can we build partnerships with individuals without then having to kind of, take them on as investors? I suppose. What is in it for them? People want a piece of the company, or some interest in the company.
They want a piece of the company. They have to have a path to making money. You don't want them to be a part of the company and not be able to give them any path to making money. There are two ways investors can make money. One is exit, and the second is dividends. So you need to work out which path are you going on, and your investors need to know what path that is. If it's a slow growth, if it's going to be a slow growth business, this is not an exit business.
Okay. All right.
And that's a critical question that you need to answer before you bring investors into the story. Otherwise, it's going to be a dissatisfactory experience for everybody. They're probably, the kinds of investors you're talking to are probably not very savvy investors, so they're kind of going to bumble into this situation, and then they're going to then make your life hell. Dumb money is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and I've been approached
I can tell you
by a
this
couple
from
of investors.
experience. Earlier in my career, I have worked with dumb money, and it's a real pain in the butt.
Yeah. I've been approached by a few investors who just have money, and that's wonderful, but they don't have any kind of resources or connections within the industry that we could leverage. And that's really the key to make this a success, is tapping into, yes, financing for sure, but getting those connections within the industry, and that's really what I want.
You may want it, but to get that, if you have to make them shareholders, they don't get what they want. What investors want, returns. And if you cannot give them returns, they're going to make your life hell.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Yeah.
All right. So why don't you first figure out where is the business? Like, is it in the long tail? Is there a way to get the larger companies involved, etc.? We need to figure all that out and validate all that. That will give us an idea of what the TAM looks like, what the growth rate looks like, and all of that stuff.
The TAM, sorry? You said that what the TAM looks like?
Yes, total available market.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
That's all. Yep.
All right. You're welcome. Okay, Maureen, it looks like I am back in the event room, so would you like to give the controls back to me? So I move the slides, or do you want to continue moving the slides? That would be fine. Ah, okay, you've given me back the slides. Okay. All right, folks, for some of you, I think from a methodology point of view, there's a lynda.com course that I have recorded. It's about a 1-hour course on bootstrapping. You may want to go through that just to kind of brush up on get some perspective on, bootstrapping and startups and so forth, because it's important material that especially people who are doing this for the first time need to have. I'm going to explain to you how to use 1 million by 1 million in a moment. But before we do that, I want to request you to also spread the word about 1M if you like what we're doing here, so that we get serious entrepreneurs to work with. And the word serious is in caps for a reason, because what we are doing here is not trying to do some silly expectation setting that you can build a business in 6 months, or you can really become multimillionaires by flipping something in 9 months. This is not real. That's not the reality, and we don't mislead you into those directions. We understand from experience that it's a very rigorous, long-term commitment to build a company, and that's why we want to work with entrepreneurs who also understand that, because otherwise it's not a successful outcome. And we are looking for entrepreneurs with whom we can invest in and also make them successful through this process by following a methodology that is a rigorous methodology, that is a time-intensive, work-intensive methodology. Okay, let me explain to you what the 1M process is. Everything, by the way, that's 1mby1m.com. So we have, immense amount of material on our website. You will just see blogs, obviously, and if you just follow the blog, you'll learn a lot. There are a lot of role model interviews, case studies, lots of methodology, and all kinds of things that you'll learn from. So that's a good body of learning material. Another body of learning material that is very inexpensive and very crisp is our Entrepreneur Journeys book series. You can also start there to start learning the 1M methodology, and you can double-click down on a topic that is of interest. There are 12 volumes on different topics. The website is full of videos, video FAQs. These roundtables happen every Thursday, so you can continue to use these Thursday roundtables as your learning platform, ongoing learning platform. So if you do that, please register on the website at the free public roundtables navigation button. I'm getting static on the line. So then you have the premium program, which is a $1,000 annual membership fee program where we offer extensive methodology guidance, a full curriculum, business development help, strategy consulting, and we also help with financing and media relations. If you go to the website, the $1 Million Club link has explanation of the ROI of the program. Actually, the $1 Million Club has case studies of the success stories of the program. The value equation has the ROI equation of the program. And then you can just dig around on the website. One other pointer I'll give you is if you just want to learn methodology by studying and listening to the video lectures and studying the case studies of our curriculum, you can also access just the curriculum without the rest of the stuff, and that's $99 a month subscription access, and you can start there as well. If you decide you want to go to the premium, you can do that in a few months after you've done some curriculum work. That's fine with us as well. So all of that are reasonable ways of engaging with the 1M1M program. You choose what is your pace, what is your learning style, and we will fine with that as long as you do have a learning style and you do have a rigorous learning process. So my recommendation is dig around on the website. There's tons of material that will help you understand the program and ask questions. Email support@1m1m.com and we will, Irina Patterson on our team will answer your questions and you can figure out which part of the program and how, if the program, first and foremost, if the program is suitable for you, and then what format of the program is suitable for you, and we have lots of ways of helping you work through this process. Now, upcoming free roundtables, every Thursday in October we have our regular roundtables. And that's pretty much all I want to share with you. If you have questions, please, now is the time to dial in or start asking in public chat. Anybody, questions, comments, introductions? This is a good time to introduce yourselves if you haven't already, if you haven't spoken today, if you haven't pitched and we haven't listened to your presentation, if you're just in listening mode, now is a great time to introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're joining from, who you are, and what kind of project brings you here, what kind of issues you're dealing with. Questions, folks? While you're thinking about your questions, here's Irina Patterson. Her email is irina@1m1m.com. If you have questions about the 1M1M program, feel free to contact Irina. Anybody? Questions, comments? If you don't have questions, then I'm going to wrap up. Last call, folks. Nipun, you will have access to audio if you dial in. You're going to need to dial into the phone. That's the only way you'll have access to audio. Otherwise, you're going to need to type in your question in the public chat. If you want to speak, you're going to need to call into the conference line. That's 650-479-3208, country code 1. And access code is 662-981-884. You need to tell me if you are planning to call in and we should wait, or we're going to adjourn otherwise. Nipun, are you calling in? All right. So, folks, let me just suggest that you come next time, and next Thursday's roundtable, you register to pitch. Nipun, maybe what you want to do also is register to pitch at the next session, and we can have a comprehensive discussion about your situation. And I will adjourn for now. Maureen will be reaching out to you. If you do register to pitch next time, Maureen will reach out to you with instructions on exactly how to do that. And I look forward to speaking with you and working on your business next time. Thanks for coming, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.